Hi guys and welcome back to the Average Pundits podcast, your home of all things Premier League. We are back with another interesting episode, the end of the January transfer window special, going through some of the winners and losers of the January transfer window. And quite an interesting one. Not so many big names, but definitely quite a lot to talk about. But as always, I am joined with Reese. How you doing, Reese?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I would arguably say that now the most interesting part of the season's over. You know, the transfer window is always one of the most exciting aspects of it, and now we just got to hope that the end of the season now is as exciting as the start.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the summer transfer window, it was a weird one, obviously going with the pandemic and everything going on. We weren't really sure what we were getting into. But January, it wasn't as fruitful as has been in some years, but we have seen an awful lot of business being gone through the entirety of January. So if we start off at the top of the alphabetical Premier League, there's no way they'd be at the actual top of the Premier League. We'll start with Arsenal. The ins for Arsenal, three ins, Omar Rekik, Matt Ryan and Martin Odegaard. Omar Rekik, a 19-year-old from Hertha Berlin. We'll have to wait and see with that one. I mean, let's talk about the players that we know. Matt Ryan, Brighton, a loan move. I'm not sure. Obviously, they needed a backup keeper. That Runnison definitely hasn't looked the finished article in the Premier League. He's looked pretty terrible. So Matt Ryan on loan from Brighton. Any comments there?
It was bizarre. Let's be honest. It was bizarre. No one expected Matt Ryan to get a top six move anytime soon. He's a capable keeper, but as we were talking before the podcast, he couldn't even get into the Brighton team. So why should he be given the time of day at Arsenal? Why would Arsenal even want to? Because they've got Bernd Leno. Yeah, they need a backup, but surely someone else would have been suffice instead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Runnison definitely, like I said before, he doesn't look like the finished article. He doesn't look ready for the Premier League. But they did spend on him, and it's going to be hard to shift him if the performances aren't coming in. So I can understand the movement for a lone keeper, but Matt Ryan definitely was a bit of a strange one. It's not terrible, but it's nowhere near great. It's kind of a nothing deal. But one that was a little bit more fruitful was Martin Odegaard from Real Madrid, who made his Premier League debut against United in a very spectacular 0-0 draw. He came on about like 81st minute. It was an awful game, but that's that aside, I can't talk about that. But Martin Odegaard, Reese, more of an exciting one. 6-month loan to the end of the season. Nothing else in that contract, but 6 months. Do you reckon we'll see anything good from Odegaard?
Now, this was one of the ones that excited me. Like, I was thinking towards the end of this transfer window, we were going to get nothing. I was, as a Liverpool fan, as we'll get to, I was hopeless throughout this entire thing. So I was hoping that someone else would have stepped up. And Odegaard is a big name. He was very good last season in La Liga. Many people's team this seasons, and he played really well. So hot prospect. I mean, he did fall out of favour at some points, but he back and firing. And I think Arsenal have picked up someone good, and they're going to be looking to fill that Ozil role. And Odegaard could grow into that. And I'm not sure whether any clauses are there for Arsenal to buy, but I'll have to see what Arsenal make of this opportunity, and maybe they can get some places up in the table.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to discuss them in the summer, but on face, there's nothing else in that deal. But 6 months of a good player could help turn Arsenal's season around. But some of the players which actually left Arsenal during this window, a lot of loan deals. Kolasinac went back to Schalke on loan. You've got William Saliba to Nice, a very exciting young prospect who we've yet to see make any impact for Arsenal. Matt Macy, the keeper, again, I don't know why he might not have been a shout instead of loaning Matt Ryan, but fair enough. Mesut Ozil, of course, as you mentioned, to Fenerbahce. Ozil's finally released. You saw on the Instagram stories that we did. I think I think it was you who said, wasn't it Mesut Ozil? It's like Arsenal and Fenerbahce have given Mesut a sock, like Dolly from Harry Potter. That did get me when I saw that. I won't lie to you, that did get me. And then you also saw Mustafi to Schalke on an initial loan move. I think that's probably going to be made permanent. Maitland-Niles to West Brom and Joe Willock to Newcastle. Those are all the most prominent ones. But overall, Arsenal, a lot of business going there, a lot of outs, a few ins. Moving on to a club with a bit less business done, but quite a prominent signing in. Morgan Sanson coming in, the Frenchman from Marseille. It was about 14 million, I believe, around that kind of fee for Aston Villa. A creative midfielder, someone interesting which could help them in the season. They've got a lot of good output in midfield going forward and stuff. But another one to add in, Reece, a good sign in there, do you think?
Yeah, he kind of highlights a box-to-box kind of play, I think. I'm not sure whether they needed another creative outlet. They've got Jack Grealish, they've got Ross Barkley, they're Bertrand Traore. The last thing that they kind of need is another bit of attacking output. Maybe they do for depth, but he is a box to box player. So if they decide to play that midfield three, Sanson would slot in alongside Ross Barkley quite well. So maybe they could have worked a bit better on the defensive aspects of their game in January, but as far as this season's concerned, Aston Villa didn't really need anything because they were doing miles better than they were last season anyways.
Yeah, I think they definitely started a lot better. I think Konza at the back, Aston Villa, I think he deserves a bit of credit this season. I think he's been fantastic. Far better than Tyrone Mings. I won't lie. I don't think Tyrone Mings is up to the crack at Aston Villa. That's just my opinion. But Morgan Sanson coming in there, possibly to replace the outgoing Conor Hurahan, who's gone to Swansea on loan. Another little move there. But that's the prominent ones from Aston Villa. Brighton, I want to talk about Brighton. I was very interested in what Brighton were able to bring in. They brought in Moises Caicedo from Independiente del Valle. That's an Ecuadorian side. Now, that probably means not a lot to a lot of people listening here, but this guy was being touted by a lot of the top Premier League clubs, more specifically Manchester United. We were very interested in this guy. I think he's a young central defensive midfielder, talented. A lot of clubs are interested in him. Very interested to see what he's like in the Premier League. But of all people, Brighton were able to sweep him up, I think, under the noses of both Manchester clubs. It's always exciting to see young players coming through in there. I mean, from the Ecuadorian league as well, that's quite an unusual one. But I mean, Brighton, showing the pulling power, being able to get these young players in, it's not bad, is it?
No, and it shows that wizardry of Graham Potter that everyone talks about. I don't know. To be fair, when I first saw Casado to Brighton, I was thinking that striker from Lazio. I was thinking that aging Ecuadorian striker. But no, I think it's a great move. The Premier League is definitely, at times it's hard for youngsters to thrive, but once you get into a good solid team and a rotatory setting for youngsters to thrive, if you're good enough, you can make it. And this Brighton move could push them onto great things.
It's interesting you mentioned that striker, because when I first saw the links in the papers, I was reading through it on my phone, and I was like, that can't be the same person I'm thinking of. I swear he is 33. I might be wrong there, but
it would have fit in with the United rumours of wanting an aging striker like Odion Ighalo and Casado matching up.
Yeah, that's it. That's one we can touch on later. Odion Ighalo, shocking, but but for Brighton, some of them more prominent outgoings. We saw fullback Bernardo heading out to Red Bull Salzburg. Obviously, the mighty Matt Ryan to Arsenal, and Glenn Murray out on loan to Nottingham Forest. Super Glenn Murray, which was bit of a shame. Got a lot of time for Glenn Murray. But moving on, Burnley. 2 players brought in, Ben Ward from Hastings and Anthony Gomez Marchini from Angers in France. I won't lie, not a lot that I know about these guys for Burnley. There wasn't too much that I feel like they could have done. Burnley are Burnley. They're just a staple Premier League side. And no one really too prominent was leaving the club, but Burnley. But a little bit more.
That's just Burnley. Burnley are what you're going to get from this Burnley. These 2 signings are exactly what Burnley are now. Hard-working, Sean Dyche types of men, and they will continue to be the bane of Mark Goldbridge's life.
Yeah, just absolutely. But some of a more prominent club, Chelsea, with some of their outgoings. No one bought in at Chelsea with the incoming Tuchel reign. If you haven't seen our Tuchel special, please go and check the last episode out on YouTube and streaming services. That's doing quite well, so thank you very much. But if we want to talk about Chelsea, some of the more promising outgoings, Lucas Piazzon to Braga, finally released Lucas Piazzon. God, he's been there for so long now. What a weird.
It seems like you know that meme of the old woman is, it's been 84 years.
Yeah, genuinely, he's been there for absolutely ages now. And then Danny Drinkwater going out to Kasimpasa, I believe that's the correct pronunciation, on loan. Moving on, Fikayo Tomori to AC Milan. I think that was a very good move for AC Milan. That's again an initial loan move with an option to buy, I believe. But Tomori to AC, I like that. I mean, he featured. I think his debut was the Milan derby. And I think Fikayo Tomori is a very good young centre back. I think he should do well there. And then a name from the past, but Abdul Baba Rahman, you may remember him. He's gone to, I think, Panathinaikos out on loan. I think it's Panathinaikos. But PAOK, that actually might not be Panathinaikos, but he's gone somewhere out on loan.
There's the Greek league. It's definitely the Greek league.
Definitely the Greek league. But I haven't seen, Baba Rahman featuring around Chelsea for a long time. So, there we go. I don't think I'm missing too much. Moving on again, Crystal Palace, incoming Jean-Philippe Mateta from Mainz, a loan move there. Again, we'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure too much about him.
It's a good signing.
One of the more
It's a good signing. I think he fits into that Palace team. He fits into that Palace team a bit more than than the current strikers. That's for sure. I mean, Zaha can have a bit more of a creative output rather than just doing all of the attacking, and it gives them more of a goal option. I think he scored 10 goals last season. And I think that he's going to add some. I think he's more of a target man still. So they're keeping that Benteke-esque type of player, but I think he's a bit more mobile, and I think he's a bit more willing and hungry in the air now because he's a young fella.
Yeah, I haven't seen too much from him personally. I know he's an attacker from Germany. That's about all I knew from him. But one of the more prominent outgoings from Palace, Max Meyer, released from the club. Once upon a time, a promising talent, but it's interesting. And now these players kind of some of them progress and they don't quite make the mold. But Max Meyer officially leaving the Premier League there. But moving on, Everton bringing in Josh King on loan, and Josh King's a player that we've mentioned several times on the podcast for clubs who are struggling. And, he was down in the Championship. He was there to be bought in. And it's a loan move at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets made permanent if he does well. But Josh King he's a Premier League striker. He should be playing in the Premier League. I don't know about you. I think that's a good signing.
Yeah, I think United were a bit of a shambles for not snapping him up before as well. I feel like United should have been the one to choose him instead of Odion Ighalo, but they would have had to probably pay a premium for Josh King. But but I think that Everton have got themselves a really good deal here, and if they do make it a permanent move, then all the best to him because they deserve it. I mean, I don't think he's going to get past Richarlison, but he can add a few more goals to the mix. So he's an experienced Premier League striker, and he deserves to be in this Everton side.
Definitely. I mean, speaking about Premier League experience, some of the outgoings, Yannick Bolasie going out on loan to Middlesbrough, Jonas Lossell going to Midtjylland, Cenk Tosun going to Besiktas, John Joe Kenny to Celtic, and Anthony Gordon out to Preston. Those are all loan moves there. But
Yannick Bolasie.
Yannick Bolasie, a classic player.
Absolutely. He gives me PTSD of when he wrecked us in, I think it was the season after the Christian Bull incident. Yannick Bolasie just tore us apart on the field, and he's just such a talented dribbler. And it's a shame that he's kind of winding down his career at the moment.
Yeah, still a talented player. I mean, I was going to say as well, Cenk Tosun, a player that has been in and out, floating around Everton, and I think going back to his native Turkey, he might be able to find some form there, especially for a big club like Besiktas. So it should be an interesting one to keep an eye out for. Going on to a club which definitely needed something, Fulham. They brought in Josh Maja from Bordeaux on loan. Again, not too certain about that one there. And, Abubakar Kamara to Dijon, that's kind of the most prominent loan move that we saw out of the club, as well as Jean-Michel Seri to Bordeaux on loan. And Jean-Michel Seri, when Fulham first came up to the Premier League and they had that big money, like around 100 million spending season, and they brought in players like Schürrle, Seri, I think, was on that list. And from what I remember, a talented centre midfielder, but, going to France now. So not quite sure what's going on there. I mean, I've had a lot of people who said to me that out of all of the clubs in the bottom half of all of the relegation candidate clubs, a lot of people think Fulham can survive. I don't think they can. I think West Brom have more of a chance, but I think both of them are probably both doomed to go down, but not too prominent for Fulham so far. Oh, another one, they had Anthony Knockout going a loan extension to Nottingham Forest, a once upon a time player again there. Leeds United, no incomings at all. The most prominent sign going out for them was Jordan Stevens, the youngster out to Bradford. Apart from that, there's not too many players amongst their list that I'm too familiar with there. Leicester, they were quite busy in the outgoings. You mentioned one before the podcast that we were quite surprised about, really, was Damari Gray going to Bayern Leverkusen. And that's quite an interesting one. Another English young winger going out to the Bundesliga. And if you look at previous experience, if you look at Sancho, if you look at Reece Nelson, not terrible. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what you're thinking about Damari Gray to Bundesliga.
I think he's still got a lot to show. Yes, he's not been, the most prolific at Leicester, but I had eyes on him since he was playing for Birmingham City. I've seen him play live a couple times, at St Andrews. So I think that he has a lot to show. I think he still has a lot to. I mean, he's not, one of those youngsters anymore. He's not like a Reece Nelson anymore. He's not like a Saka. He's not a Joe Willock. He's getting on to his mid-20s now. So Damari Gray is going to need to step up, and I think Leverkusen could be the place. Leverkusen, losing out on a couple of creative pieces last season. I'm pretty sure they were the ones to get rid of, well, not get rid of, but to sell Kai Havertz to Chelsea. So one creative midfielder leaves, another one comes in to save the day. So let's see where Damari Gray is in 6 months' time, and hopefully he's making some waves in the German league.
Yeah, definitely. A couple of other promising players who left out on this. The Matty James went down to Coventry. Filip Benkovic, a talented player there. Hopefully, we can see a bit more of him coming soon in the Premier League. Went out on loan to OH Leuven. And then Islam Slimani completing his move to Lyon. That's another big one there. Another striker who once upon a time was linked with Manchester United, weirdly. But, moving on.
Who wasn't? What aging striker was not linked to Man United?
We love an aging striker. But moving on to your club, mate. Liverpool, 2 ins, Ben Davies and Kabak. Those were the ones coming in. A bit of a weird. You needed to sign centre backs. You signed them. I mean, should we start with Ben Davies? I mean,
what is a Ben Davies? Who is Ben Davies?
Again, when I first read it, I thought, like, I read it for the first time with Ben Davies from Spurs, and I was thinking the fullback. And I was just thinking, what's that about? But then I looked, and it's actually a centre back from Preston North End.
I ain't got a clue. I had never heard of Ben Davies in my life. And when I first saw the reports, I thought it was the guy from Tottenham. But I ain't got much to say. I mean, people that are fans of the Championship could probably tell us in the comments. But what was it? Looking about £2 million for him.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like when we bought Vandenberg, who went the other way. He went to Preston on loan too. Like, I'm perplexed by Ben Davies. I think I'm not sure whether he was ready for a big move like Liverpool, and he's definitely outshone by the next signing in Ozan Kabak from Schalke, who, as we noted, in the build up to the podcast, he has come from a struggling Schalke side. They are doing very poor. So hopefully he can bring more than just what they've got at the minute at Schalke and not lose for us. And it's terrible because the news coming out at the moment is that both Joel Matip and Virgil van Dijk are out for the rest of the season. So I think Liverpool's title chances are out the window. I'll say it now. I will.
Big call. That's a big call. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think Fabinho and Henderson, I think they've been very lucky that they haven't conceded more, but I think they've been, for now, fairly steady. But you never know, do you? You never know.
No, I disagree. I think Henderson is not a centre back. I don't think he should be playing centre back. He should be playing in the midfield. He's not a natural centre back. So, Kabak coming in is great. The sooner the better. It'll be when Gomez comes back and starts playing alongside Kabak. If Fabinho keeps playing well as centre back, keep him there, but keep Henderson out of the defence because he's just not. He's not a centre back. He's not good enough to be in the centre back role.
Well, the Kabak deal was kind of a weird triangle of signings, going in from Mustafi leaving Arsenal and going to Schalke, and you kind of bringing in Kabak. It was a bit of a weird kind of triangle thing. I think it will be a good signing. I think it will probably work. He's young, he's talented, so I'm hoping from a neutral standpoint, that it'll be interesting to see him. But as it's Liverpool, I hope he flops. But as you said, Van Den Berg went to Preston, and then Takumi Minamino went out on loan as well. But it was to Southampton, I believe.
Yes, I feel bad for Takumi. I feel like he hasn't gelled well with the team. I feel like being from Japan and well, Japanese as being his first language and coming from Salzburg. So I think that he got the short end of the stick. I think he's been sent out on loan very unjustly. I'm hoping he thrives at Southampton. I really do, and I think that Southampton. Yeah, we'll come on to talk about Minamino in a bit, but I feel like Minamino's time at Liverpool has been very below average, and it's not Minamino's fault. He's not being asked enough of. He's not being brought on enough, and Klopp still favours Shaqiri. Why would he bring in Minamino if he still favours Shaqiri as a backup striker, backup winger? Sorry, to Mo Salah on that right hand side. So it puzzled me. I was sad to see Minamino go, and that's kind of all I have to say about Liverpool. You can hear the disappointment in my voice. That it was a terrible window for us.
Yeah, I'd very much be interested to see what any other Liverpool fans do think of the Kabak deal, the Minamino going out. Let us know in the comments below or on any of our social media platforms, as always. But going to the blue half of Manchester City, no one brought in. The only real prominent outgoing, in my opinion, was Patrick Roberts, loaned out to Derby County. You'll probably remember Patrick Roberts, a very promising young player in that academy. And then Derby County, recent management change. We've seen fairly recently quite a lot of young players going out to Derby and having quite a good time. So it'll be good to see what Patrick Roberts can do. Maybe he can try and find himself a good championship move or something. We'll have to wait and see. But they'll go to the red half of Manchester, and the only official signing being brought in was Amad Diallo. And that was a deal that was completed in the summer, really, but it was finalized in January. So it's not a surprise. We all knew this guy was coming in. It's around 30 million, 35 million, 18 years old, hasn't yet made an appearance for the club, but he made his first, starting a United shirt the other day for the under-23s against Liverpool when he scored 2 goals in I think it was a 6-2 win. So I'm very interested to see him come in. I'm very interested to see him come in. He's young, he's talented. I think it was Romano around the time. Not a lot of people were very too familiar. He came from Atalanta, which are a very promising side in Italy. But I think it was Romano who said that United snapped him up at the right time. Apparently, there are a lot of clubs interested. But in terms of United, some of the more promising players that left. Timothy Fosu-Mensah finally left to Bayern Leverkusen. I think that's a good move for Leverkusen. I think he's still got a lot to give, Fosu-Mensah. Very, very sad that he couldn't make it work at United, but it had gone on long enough. He maybe should have left a season or two ago. So happy he's got himself a little move out. Jesse Lingard loaned out to West Ham. I don't know why. Jay Lingard, I don't know why I think it's going to work out. I don't know about you, but I think he'll be good there.
I still don't like him. I still don't like him. I don't know what it is about him. I just don't think mine and his personalities would ever click in any sort of social situation. I feel like if I was to host a party, I'd kick him out. But yeah, I mean, West Ham might have had themselves a decent deal there. But my sort of opinion on Manchester United at the moment is they're starting to get rid of the deadwood in the club, and that also went on with, I'm guessing, one of the names that you were about to go on with which is Marcus Rojo, who also left for an undisclosed fee to Boca Juniors, which is it's good for United because his wages were through the roof, and it's something that you complain about on numerous occasions.
Honestly, I could not understand it whatsoever, and also because he was still, not in the prime of his career, I couldn't believe that we couldn't shift him to an Argentinian club. I mean, I think he was out on loan to Independiente, and then he's a Boca. So the big clubs out in Argentina. But finally, he's gone. It's better for him. It's better for us. It needs to happen sooner. But then the other prominent ones, Tahith Chong, 6 months at Werder Bremen, comes back, 6 months at Club Brugge now. Very strange. But Tahith Chong's gone out again. Facundo Pellistri, the new signing, brought in. Very excited to see what we can deal with him in the future. Young Uruguayan player to Alaves in Spain. Teden Mengi, which is a young player from United, again from the academy, centre back, I think, going down to Derby. Again, working with a promising manager like Wayne Rooney, more man managed, hopefully, so he can get some well-needed minutes. And so I think United had quite a good window in terms of outgoings. Would have maybe have liked to see a couple of ins, but Amad Diallo, and then obviously
James Garner to Nottingham Forest as well.
Yeah. James Garner to Nottingham Forest wasn't really a surprise. I think now he's coming to the end of his year. He got some starts for us, but I don't think he's really too much of a prominent player for us at the moment.
I feel like that's the same with Tahith Chong too. I think that I think that his ceiling has been reduced dramatically based on his time out of the United squad, and I feel like Greenwood is going to be filling that role. Like Tahith Chong was one of those players that's going to be really impressive for you, and then he kind of just got sent to the back, and he started getting moved out on loans and stuff. Whereas Greenwood made it into the first team, but without any loans. So I think that for me, a guy like Tahith Chong could be out.
Well, I mean, if you cast your minds back, it was in the summer before he signed an extension with us. His contract was coming to an end. It didn't look like he was going to be signing that deal, and it looks like he was going to Inter Milan on a free. And then the next thing you see, he signed an extension with us, and I was very surprised to see that because it seemed all but complete that he was gone. But going out to Werder Bremen, I thought was fine. I thought that was perfectly fine. But being called back and then going out on loan again, I'm not too sure there. But we'll have to wait and see. And then obviously the last one, Odion Igalo went back off of his loan from United. I think he's going to join Al Assad, maybe, I think, in the Saudi league. But he's gone on to get another club. He served his purpose, fondly remembered. I love the man.
I feel like we should have a shrine to Odion Igalo on the Average Pundits Instagram.
Don't tempt me, because don't tempt me, because I'll go get that sorted. Newcastle United, moving on now. A player that we've already mentioned, they brought in Joe Willock on loan. I think that was a lot more they needed to do. So I don't necessarily think they've had the best window. But outgoings, Rolando Aarons going to Huddersfield and DeAndre Yedlin to Galatasaray. A once upon a time very promising player. I think it was Seattle Sounders to Spurs back in the day. He's played for Sunderland as well. Bit of a winner. But DeAndre Yedlin, there we go. Moving on again, Sheffield, no promising coming in players, which I think is absolutely bonkers. Maybe they've just accepted it. And I'm not even going to talk about the outgoings. There's no one promising for Sheffield at all. Southampton, as we mentioned before, they bought in Minamino. If we talk about a little bit more from the Southampton perspective, we've already spoken about him. What they're getting is a young, probably very hungry player. He's come to the Premier League. He hasn't really had a chance to shine yet. So hopefully he goes into that Southampton team and is able to do some kind of job because, like you said, he's a very promising player. Hopefully they can get something out of him.
Yeah, I think their captain Yoshida. I think he's still their captain. I think he might be like he's a very
He's gone, mate.
Wait,
Yoshida's
what?
Gone.
I thought
it's long gone.
I thought Yoshida was still there. Never mind. It just shows how much I know about Southampton, lads. Maybe Yoshida was the one that told him to go there because it was a very promising team. Well, there we go. Then I've been made a right fool there. But yeah, Minamino is going to be definitely hungry. Then I was thinking that he would fit in way better with this team. Maybe he's going to be moved out to the left. I'm not too sure on Southampton's how they're composed in terms of formations, but either him or Walcott can be moved out onto the left wing. I think it's a great signing for Southampton. It's going to allow them to push further up the table and keep their momentum going forward. Yeah,
the only two real prominent ones for Southampton, Jan Valery was sent out on loan to Birmingham, and then Shane Long down to the Championship at AFC Bournemouth. So Shane Long kind of out of favour there, so you kind of understood that one. Tottenham, no real big signings coming in. Some of the signings that went out that were quite big, it was Anthony Giorgio, I think he's made some appearances for Tottenham under Mourinho, has gone out to AEL Limassol, I'm not sure. Maurizio Pochettino, the son of Maurizio Maurizio Pochettino again, the new PSG manager, has gone out to Watford on loan, and I think that is also with an option to buy. And then Troy Parrott out to Ipswich, and the last one, Paolo Gazzaniga to Elche, which, I feel a bit harsh for Gazzaniga because I think he's a perfectly fine second keeper, but I think Joe Hart was brought in to kind of meet the English quota, which is why I think they were quite happy to let Gazzaniga go out for a bit. But I do want to mention Troy Parrott, a very interesting player, young talent, but doesn't look like he's going to be in favour of Spurs anytime soon. I'm not entirely convinced we're ever going to see Troy Parrott make it for Spurs. I think in terms of Spurs' young talents, there isn't too much there. Apart from Japhet Tanganga, there's not too much from their academy, really. But Parrott was one, I think they were touting for quite a while, but quite a lot of moves, especially in and around the Championship. I don't think we're going to see much of him at Spurs.
No. I think you're probably sick of hearing about the Troy Parrott hype train living with someone that is a diehard Spurs fan in Sam. So I think that I think Troy Parrott's past it. I think he's one of these youngsters that isn't going to be starting for Spurs anytime soon. Harry Kane is kind of hitting his prime now, so Parrott, it's only a matter of time before we see what he goes on to do. Maybe he's going to be bang average Championship striker. Maybe he's going to be very he might break through. He might break through and peak late. Someone to also point out is Gedson Fernandez's loan has just expired and he's gone back to Benfica as well.
I mean, that one was just a bizarre at the time. I think around the time when that was going on, United were interested, Tottenham were interested, and West Ham were interested. Those were the three prominent clubs. And I think United were just looking down their shortlist for players in case the Bruno deal didn't come through. And I think Spurs were doing the same because Spurs are also in for Bruno Fernandes. But he didn't really have a good time on Mourinho. I thought maybe a Portuguese link-up might have been what he was needing, but just didn't happen for him. So, he's gone back. Hopefully, he was a young, touted, promising touted player. So hopefully we can see more of him coming through. But moving on now to West Bromwich Albion. They, on the other hand, unlike Fulham and unlike Sheffield, I think have shown a little bit more promise into wanting to stay in this fight. They brought in Robert Snodgrass from West Ham, a player who's definitely very much well accustomed to that kind of area of the Premier League. They also brought in Andy Lonergan, not too sure about that dude there. Umbe Diagne on loan from Galatasaray, who actually got an assist on his debut the other day against Fulham. And then Okay Yasulu from Celta Vigo, the Turkish defensive midfielder, and also Ainsley Maitland-Niles out on loan. So they've shown a bit more promise of trying to get in this fight. I think Big Sam, when he definitely thrives in this kind of situation. So if he can keep them up, I think fair play to him. And I think out of all three clubs, in my opinion, West Brom have got the best chance. I just think defensively, they're very poor. I think Johnston is fine. I think he can do a job. I think you get what you get with him. But I think defensively, they are particularly poor. So be very interested to see if they can stay up. But I don't know about you. I think out of the three clubs, I think they stand the best chance.
They brought in Ainsley Maitland-Niles, and it'll be interesting to see where they play Maitland-Niles because he's been touted to start playing right wing back for Arsenal. But it'll be interesting to see whether he wants to attack more or whether he's going to be put in that right back spot and whether he's going to grow up and actually try and play that right back spot and try and develop into the player that he's trying to be at Arsenal, because they've got a right winger. As much as Arsenal fans would like to, and as a lot of Premier League fans will say that Pepe's flopped, he's still got time to grow and he's still got time to flourish in an Arsenal shirt. Whereas Maitland-Niles, he's a bit younger, and he can develop into that right back because obviously Hector Bellerin has been really in some occasions has been really poor. So it was weird for Arsenal to let Maitland-Niles go, let's be honest. Lonergan was a good pickup on a free. I think that we let him go. Liverpool let him go a couple of months back. Diagne is a great get as well. And I think Snodgrass, was a great pickup for West Brom as well. So I think, ditching Charlie Austin as well on loan as well. I think West Brom have done quite a good bit of business this window.
Yeah, I'm happy with them as well. I think honestly they deserve a little bit of credit. I mean, especially if they can stay up, that January window will be looked back on as a crucial window for West Brom. So fair play to them, I think. But moving on to West Ham, 3 players brought in: Frederick Alves from Silkeborg, Said Behrama from Brentford. That was made a permanent deal, and obviously Jesse Lingard in on loan as well. I think the Benrahma deal from Brentford, I feel, again, exciting young player. Jesse Lingard from United added a bit of creativity in there. Maybe
Promising
could
young
be what they
player.
needed. No, Reece, that joke hasn't been made for like 5 years. And then Frederick Alves, I'm not too familiar with that dude there, but the thing coming out of West Ham was Sebastian Haller going to Ajax. It's over. The dream's over.
It's a good move for West Ham because he was shocking. So Ajax, I think, have got a good player for their league, and I think that Haller just was never going to make it in the Premier League. Much like Jovic was never going to make it in La Liga. I think the Bundesliga were where they were going to stay. Both the strike partners from Frankfurt, and I think the experiment with Haller was over. He just doesn't fit the Premier League style of play. Let's be honest. I think they were kind of everyone's going to try and look towards speedy strikers now, and Haller does not fit the mold in the slightest. So Haller out of the club, which getting 20 million for him was a pretty good deal.
I think they lost like half their money, so I think it's a bit of a pain, but it wasn't working, so he had to go out. But then obviously Robert Snodgrass went to West Brom. Winston Reid also to Brentford on loan. That's the last kind of prominent one there. And then ending the Premier League list, we've got Wolverhampton, who only had one player coming in, and that was Willian Jose to Real Sociedad. If you assess the Wolves situation, I've said on the podcast before, I think they've been awful. I think they've been all over the place. No one could have predicted what happened to Jimenez. They let Jota go. So be it. You let Jota go. He was a very good player, a great pickup from Liverpool, but sadly, injured for most of the season. So Liverpool haven't been able to use him. So every cloud. But Jota goes. Jimenez gets this awful injury, and hopefully he comes back stronger from it. But terrible injury for Jimenez. So they decided to bring in Willian Jose from Real Sociedad on loan, and he's a kind of a similar kind of build striker to Jimenez. So I think they've just tried to literally put a plaster over a leaking pipe. They've just literally had a temporary fix for now, and then hoping that towards the end of the season or at the end of this season that Jimenez comes back stronger. So I'm not massively thrilled about Wolves' window. I think Nuno's in real trouble. I think he's real trouble. I don't know if he's losing the dressing room. Shame, really exciting manager, a lot of exciting players. Adama Traore, another player who's just definitely fallen out of form. Pundits and Neto have definitely been carrying them. I mean, Giammattino, he's 35. He's not really up to the crack at the moment. Neves has had 2 seasons out of it. And some of the players that they've let go, they've had Vinagre going out to Famalicão, I believe. Patrick Catrone out to Valencia on loan. They recalled him from Fiorentina so they could try and fix the plug hole. And they've sent him back out. And I feel sorry for him because, ever since leaving AC, he should have never left AC Milan. AC Milan should have kept him. Such a shame. A bit like how, Moise Kean should probably have not left Juventus. It's such a shame to see these young players get kind of moved out. And then the youngster Luke Matheson going out to Ipswich on loan as well, linking up with Tottenham's Troy Parrott there. Wolves, again, we'll move on from that section. I've said what I need to say about Wolves, but we'll talk about the winners and losers of this to end off this podcast, because we've given you a little rundown on some of the best moves coming in and out, as we always do on the Pundits transfer season. But we're going to go through our winners and losers. I will start with you, Reece, to see who you feel are your winners of this window.
Using my expertise calculations of being an average pundit, I am going to. I think I've selected 3 winners and 3 losers. The first one, I think, you're probably going to be happy with this one. I've picked Manchester United. I think that they've had a pretty decent window. Amad Diallo was obviously agreed before, but bringing him in, January-wise, because of COVID, he's going to feel like a brand new signing. Yes, he's young. Yes, he's like 18. he's not going to bring anything right away. So I think that that's going to be a really promising signing. I think getting rid of Marcus Rojo was a really good idea. I think loaning out Jesse Lingard was a very good idea. Getting rid of Fosu Mensah, I think that experiment was over. And just offloading some of the really promising players that will not get into this Manchester United side anytime soon. So if you're looking at a window for Manchester United, I think it's been a pretty successful one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I'd probably put United in my kind of winners category as well. I think a lot of people I think would be out there saying we need to sign another centre back, but I think it's kind of wishful thinking at the moment. And also, you forget United have been top of the league for a fair amount, so we're in that top 3-4 conversation for quite a while. So I think we won't see any prominent signings apart from Diallo being finalised coming through till the summer at least. But I think the deals we've had going out, like you said, I think they've made a lot of sense. So I think I could back you as United being one of the favourites. I'd like to hear another one of your winners, mate.
Well, yeah, I mean, before I go into my next one, I feel like it is key to note that a lot of these teams, yes, people don't, your teams don't want to spend so much money because then you kind of have that financial fair play ruling. You're not making as much money back because you're not selling tickets due to COVID-19. So I think that that's very key to note. I think that teams aren't making as much money and they don't want to spend more because of the situation that we're in. So I do feel sorry for all these, all teams at the moment because they're not wanting to spend on these players. And the majority of all the signings that we're seeing are loan deals. We've seen like a handful of loan deals. But I mean, speaking of a team that have taken a load of loan deals, and we have recently just spoken about this team, it's West Brom. I think that they are one of the winners of the transfer window. I think that getting rid of Charlie Austin is, well, not rid of, but loaning him out. I think that that's going to be key. When it comes time for it in the summer, I think they might try to offload Charlie Austin for a fee. If they are to stay up, it'll be key to keep him if they go down. Ainsley Maitland-Niles is a great load move. I feel like that's very good, and Diagne as well. Snodgrass being picked up as well. A lot more in terms of creating attacking play and sort of and Lonergan as well, picking him up on a free if he's out there. Why not get him? He's obviously at Liverpool for a reason, and why not pick him up as a backup? So I think that West Brom did what they needed to. They signed some players, and I think that along with Manchester United, I think Manchester United for me have had the joint top best window. I think West Brom might have had maybe second place, and there's another team on my list that I think have had an equal window to Manchester United, but we'll get into that a little later. But yeah, West Brom have had a really good start.
Yeah, I think I had West Brom in mind as well. Again, I think, like you said, they made calculated moves. They look like a club who are showing some ambition to staying in the Premier League. They don't have the money to spend. We're in very weird times as well at the moment. I think they've shopped smart. They haven't shopped, reckless. They haven't just tried to buy a massive player to come in and try and like put it all on their shoulders. They've shopped smart and they've plugged gaps. So I would totally agree with you that West Brom there. And personally for me, I'd almost feel that West Brom have had an even better window. I think the fact that it just shows ambition. So I think West Brom for me are definitely probably my first, but I think United have definitely had a good one as well.
Yeah, and my final one is going to be West Ham United. Just because kind of they've been the only one to finalise a permanent deal. Bringing inside Ben Rama from Brentford and making it permanent instead of that loan deal that they agreed in the summer. I feel like he's going to be a great player for them. He was great in the Championship last season, along with Ollie Watkins. And I think that he's one of the reasons why Brentford did so well last season. And there's a reason why Watkins scored so many goals and got the attention because of Ben Rama and how he created. So I feel like that was a great move. Jesse Lingard, it is what it is with him. He's going to add something to the team. I think he is at the level of West Ham, let's be honest. He's not a Manchester United player, let's be fair to him. I'm not going. He's a character off the pitch, but on the pitch, he's a mid-table player at this point, and I think that it's time to admit that. Frederick Alvarez, I'm going to admit I don't know too much about, but getting rid of Sebastian Haller was a really key thing to do. I think that getting rid of him, getting 20 million pounds. I mean, it paid for Ben Rama. So I think that's really key as well. So if Ben Rama comes good, they have to thank Sebastian, the sale of Sebastian Haller. So yes, my three winners of the transfer window: Manchester United, West Brom, and also now West Ham.
Yep, we had the exact same three. I think we might have differed on the order a bit, but we had the exact same three. But West Ham again, for me, like you said, not too much to add there. But they made calculated signings again. They've managed to solidify the Benrahma deal, an exciting young player, and also Jesse Lingard. I think coming in will, in my opinion, I think he will add something to them. And West Ham, you never know, they might be in for a European push. They could get Europa League based on the season they're having. So it's all to see. We'll go on to the losers. I'll start with my losers for this one, and I'll move on to you. My first loser of the Premier League window for me, I'll start off at the bottom of the alphabetic Premier League with Wolverhampton Wanderers. I think it's poor. I think that, like I said, when I've watched them, they've been so bad. I think honestly, Nuno is in serious trouble, like I've already said, and I think they needed to do more. I think signing Willian Jose on loan. I think he's a known striker, isn't he, Willian Jose? I mean, people know of him, and he's been out in the BBVA for quite a while. And then I think before that, I think he was in the Portuguese league. But I mean, I don't think it was enough. I think they needed creativity as well if they wanted to push to have a successful season. But what I think that the board are losing faith in Nuno. That's what I think's happened. I think that's why he's been backed even more, and I think they've kind of maybe just come to terms with the fact that this season's a bit of a wash for them and they're going to go again next season. But I think if the results don't turn around, I think if this Willian Jose deal doesn't look like it's plugged the gap that Jimenez has left, I think Nuno's out. I think Nuno might be sacked this season, which is a big claim, but I think it might happen. But Wolves are my first losers anyway. I don't know about you.
I don't have Wolves in there because I thought that the deal for Willian Jose was actually a smart decision because he is exactly what Jimenez is. He's a target man and he's great around the box. So I feel like Jimenez fits the mold of Willian Jose, and I think that's what they need. They need a target man. They need a striker, and that's why they brought back Catrone because they were struggling for a striker, and that's why they've sent him out. And I think that it's smart to keep Catrone warmed up. It's smart to keep him active in the Premier League, out of the Premier League. Sorry. So I think that they have just. I think they'd probably be just behind some of my losers. This is in no particular order. I have Chelsea. Now, there's a reason for this, and Tomori is such a good centre back. Let's be honest. Why would they let him go on loan to AC Milan? I think you mentioned with an option to buy.
I'm pretty sure there's an option to buy in there, if not an obligation, because around the time when the talks were going on, there was definitely additions in that contract.
Well, if that's the case, then Chelsea have had a stinker because Tomori is fantastic. Why would you ever let him go? There are a lot of players. There are a lot more teams that have let others go, but Tomori on a potential, basically, well, not a free, but they're basically just saying you're out the door. They've got an aging Thiago Silva. Why wouldn't you keep Tomori in the lineup or at least around the substitutes? Yes, It's great to give him a loan spell. Give him a loan spell at AC Milan, but don't put an obligation to buy. What would be the point in that? I wouldn't. If I was there, I wouldn't have accepted that. If there was an obligation to buy from AC Milan because they're showing intent to buy and take one of the hottest prospects at Chelsea away.
Yeah, no, I totally agree in that perspective, in that area. I think Tomori again is definitely a player that I've enjoyed. I think he's part of a really good, fruitful young Chelsea kind of selection of players that have been promoted into the team through Lampard and stuff like that, and hopefully building on to Tuchel. But I'm not sure Tuchel had the last say on it, so I'm guessing so. It's a bit of a weird one. I mean, I think it showed it's magnificent intent from Tomori to go out and try and better his career. And if you think Chelsea aren't going to respect me, so I'm going to go out and do it at another huge club, and AC Milan having a really good season over in the Serie A, and they're he's playing with some of the best players in Italy. So I think good luck to him. But the only reason why I would maybe disagree with you on Chelsea was because I don't think they could have spent Like Frank Lampard spent like what I think we did this in our Frank special a couple of podcasts ago. If you haven't seen the Frank Lampard episode, go and check that out as well. But we said they spent like 258 million or something like that on the players they bought in. I don't think there was any money left. So I think maybe this Tomori deal could be to kind of recoup some money in the summer, which is crazy if it gets made into a permanent deal. But I still disagree. I agree with you that it's a terrible decision to let him go because he's so good. But I think there are worse offenders in this league. And why, in terms of my second loser in the Premier League, I've gone for Sheffield United. Again, like I said, they've given up. They know they're going down, and yeah, it's probably quite obvious they're going to go down. But they beat United, so fair play to them. They got a point. They got points off us. They've had only 2 wins this season, but bringing nobody in when you've been this poor and you've brought in nobody, and you look at West Brom, and West Brom have just been promoted, and you were in the Premier League last season. You had such a good window. You brought no one of prominent in the summer apart from Ramsdale, who hasn't been good enough. You bring no one in January, you've made your bed, you're going down. So I don't know whether to hold my hands up and say, okay, fair enough, you've accepted it, or to be like, wow, there's no fight in you there at all. So I've got Sheffield as my second loser. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think that Sheffield United, they didn't even cross my mind when I was making my losers list. But seeing that they've only loaned out 2 people as well and not making any changes, they're showing a lot of intent from where they were last season. They were like, oh, we finished 8th. There's no reason for us to bring anyone in, and now we're 20th, and we really regret that. Yeah, that's exactly what Sheffield United are doing. So it's such a shame, because they were so exciting last season. Well, exciting is not the word, because they also played boring football. But I think that Sheffield's time. I think they've just accepted their fate now. They're lying in a coffin, ready to be buried, and I think it's a matter of time before they're announced as the first team to be relegated.
Yeah, no, I agree. So if we're agreeing on that one there, if I go to my third and final loser of the Premier League transfer window so far, it was quite tough because at first thought I'm thinking Fulham for similar reasons. They brought in Josh Maja from Bordeaux on loan, but the Fulham were the ones that I was initially going to go with. But on face, looking at it now, it's a really tough call. I don't know whether to put my final boot on the fact that I could go for Fulham or Newcastle United. And I think I am going to opt for Newcastle. And the reason being is that they've been poor. They've been so bad. And, the signings they made in the summer, I was thinking like, oh my God, fair play. Like Bruce is out now. Like basically stealing Jamal Lewis from Liverpool's noses. I think that was smart. I think Callum Wilson, he's obviously been the one who's been stand out for Newcastle. He's been very good. I think he's already on like 11 goals already. So a fair play to Callum Wilson. Matt Ritchie, another calculated move. I think a lot of their business in the summer was good, but they haven't been good enough. Joe Willock on loan does not show intent from a club that want to stride forward. Steve Bruce, he's probably not the manager to take him forward, is he? You know what you get with Steve Bruce. But Joe Willock on loan, unfruitful. Newcastle in my third. I've solidified it. Not for Newcastle.
Yeah, I think that seeing Newcastle struggle at the moment is very it's quite strange because of exactly what you said, the signings. Bringing in Ryan Fraser, bringing in Callum Wilson, Jamal Lewis, Hendricks as well, which wasn't really a great signing, but it's very deflating as someone that does like Newcastle United, based on family and in-laws, but it's so weird. They've been hit with so much tragedy this year. A lot of players have been injured or ill, or in the case of St. Maximan, ill. No one knows whether he's actually ill or if he's actually fallen out with Steve Bruce. There are a lot of rumours out there and speculation whether St. Maximan is wanting a move out. And I don't think Steve Bruce is the man to take them forward. So I think that it's a weird move, I think, for Newcastle United. Although I'm just going to say this now, one of your bottom two, or one of your bottom three, Wolverhampton Wanderers, are currently beating Arsenal 2-1. So we'll see how that goes when we put this out tomorrow. Hopefully, Wolves have continued this and two
See,
two
that's
two
just
red
made me angry.
cards, 2 red cards
Two
for Arsenal.
2 red cards for Arsenal. Wow.
David
And
Luiz
we
and Bernd
drew to
Leno
them
have been
0-0.
sent off.
And we drew to them 0-0. I don't know what to say, people. As always, those are our predictions. We would love to hear from you, winners and losers. We will have some social media links, mainly on our Instagram. You can go and get a bit interactive with us. Let us know what you think. And you can follow us also on Instagram at The Average Pundits, and like us on Facebook at The Average Pundits as well. On Twitter, we are Pundits Average. And if you're streaming to this, give us a follow on your favorite streaming platforms. Thank you very much for showing the support. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, please do like and subscribe. We do really appreciate any likes and subscribes we are getting, as always. But thank you very much for joining me on this one, Reece, a January special.
Yes, it's always it's our second annual January transfer window special. Looking at the winners and losers. It feels like only yesterday that we were looking at Bruno Fernandes and Minamino coming into the club. So, it's great to reminisce on this window. Not as exciting as last year, obviously, COVID permitting, because everyone can't spend. No one has the money, so a bit boring. But we're here. We're the Average Pundits, and we make it work.
We are indeed. And there we go, guys. Thank you so much for watching, for streaming, for listening. As always, we will see you next time.